"I need a favor from you," my ex-wife said, standing in the rain outside my door, 3 years after our divorce. And I replied, "Only if you grant my request." Her name is Mira, a night shift nurse who once wore my ring, the woman I let walk away because I was too broke and too proud to ask her to stay. I'm Daniel, the furniture maker who lost his workshop, his savings, and the only person who ever fit my hand. I should have shut the door on my ex-wife. I should have said no to the favor. But the second she asked, I heard myself name a request that would either heal us or destroy us both, because what she needed from me was to be her husband again, and what I needed from her was something she was terrified to give. So why would a woman who left me 3 years ago come back begging for this favor now? What request could a broken ex-husband possibly make that would make her hands shake around that cup of tea? And what secret was she hiding behind those tears in the rain, the one that would change everything before the night was over? The rain hit the window like tiny fists. I remember I was sanding a table leg when the knock came. It was almost midnight. Nobody knocks at midnight unless something is wrong. I set down the sandpaper, wiped the dust on my jeans, and opened the door. And there she was. 3 years. 3 years since I'd seen her face, and the world just stopped. Her hair was soaked flat against her cheeks. Her coat was too thin for the cold. She was shivering, but she was standing straight, the way she always stood when she was scared and didn't want you to know it. Same Mira. Still never carried an umbrella. In 7 years of loving her, I don't think that woman owned a single one. "Mira," I said. My voice came out cracked, like an old door. "Hi, Daniel." For a second, neither of us moved. The rain fell between us like a curtain. I could smell it. That wet pavement smell, and under it, faint, the same soap she always used. Funny how a smell can drag you back through time. One breath and I was 29 again, watching her laugh in our tiny kitchen. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside. I shouldn't have. Every smart part of me was screaming to shut the door. But my hand was already holding it open, because my hand had never learned how to say no to her. She walked into my little apartment and looked around, and I saw it hit her, how small my life had gotten. One room, a bed in the corner, half-built furniture everywhere, because building things was the only thing that kept my hands from shaking at night. This wasn't the home we'd had. This was what was left of me after everything fell apart. "You're still building," she said softly, touching the edge of a chair I'd been carving. "It's all I know how to do." I put the kettle on. My hands needed a job. That's the thing nobody tells you about seeing the person you lost. Your body doesn't know what to do. So you make tea. You reach for something normal to hold on to while the ground tilts under you. I gave her the mug. She wrapped both hands around it, the exact way she used to, fingers laced, pulling the warmth into her. My chest ached so hard I had to look away. "You're shaking," I said. "I'm cold." "You're always cold. You never dress for the weather." The tiniest smile touched her lips. "You always notice that." I noticed everything about you. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Too honest. Too soon. I looked down at my own cup. "Sorry." She was quiet. The rain filled the silence. And then she took a breath. That shaky, gathering breath people take before they say the thing they came to say. "I need a favor from you." I'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. Not this exact one, but the idea of it. Mira, back, needing me. In my daydreams I was cool, distant. In my daydreams, I made her feel a little bit of what I'd felt when she left. But now she was here, real and cold and trembling, and all my cool armor turned to paper. Still, something in me held on. Something that had learned the hard way, that opening the door all the way could destroy me. "What kind of favor?" I asked. She set the mug down. Her hands, I noticed, were not steady. This woman held dying patients' hands at 3 in the morning without flinching, and she couldn't keep her hands still in front of me. "It's my dad," she said. And just like that, the room got colder. Her father, Sang-woo. The old man had loved me like a son. When Mira married me, he pulled me aside at the wedding, gripped my shoulder with that iron grip of his, and said, "You take care of my girl, and I'll never ask you for anything else." He taught me how to fix a car engine. He called me on my birthday every year, even the years I was too ashamed to answer. "How is he?" I asked, and I was scared of the answer. Her eyes filled. She blinked fast, trying to fight it, but a tear broke loose and ran down her wet cheek, mixing with the rain that was already there. "It's his heart," she said. "It's failing. The doctors are saying months, maybe less." The mug in my hands suddenly felt too heavy. I set it down. "Mira, I'm so sorry. Why didn't you call me?" "Because I couldn't." Her voice broke. "Because of what I have to ask you. Ask me anything." "You say that now." "Mira." I moved closer without meaning to. "Ask me." She wiped her face with the back of her hand. When she looked up at me, her eyes were red and full and terrified. "He doesn't know we're divorced," she said. The words hung in the air. "What?" "I never told him." The tears came faster now. "When we split up, he was already sick. His first heart attack was that same year. Do you remember? I couldn't put that on him. You were the best thing that ever happened in his eyes. His daughter, married to a good man, a hard-working man, a man who built beautiful things with his hands. Every time I visited, he asked about you. How's Daniel? Is Daniel eating enough? Tell Daniel to come by." She was crying openly now, and I felt my own throat closing. And I lied. I said you were busy. I said you were working. 3 years of lies, Daniel. 3 years of making up stories about a husband I didn't have anymore. And now he's dying, and the one thing he wants, the one thing that would make him happy before he goes. She couldn't finish, but she didn't have to. I already knew. "He wants to see me," I said. She nodded, unable to speak. "He wants to see us. Together. Happy." Another nod. And then the words came out of her in a rush, like water breaking through a dam. "I need you to be my husband again. Just for him. Just until it's over. Come to Sunday dinners. Sit with him. Let him believe it all worked out, that his little girl is safe and loved, and everything he ever wanted for her came true. Please, Daniel. Please. I know I have no right to ask. I left. I know that. But he's my father and he's dying, and I can't let him die thinking his last few months were built on a lie. I can't." She was falling apart in front of me, this strong woman who never let anyone see her cry, and it took everything in me not to just pull her into my arms right there. But I didn't. Because here's what she didn't know. Here's the thing I'd never told a living soul. I never wanted the divorce. Not for one single day. When my business collapsed, when the bank took my workshop, when the debts piled up like snow on a roof until the whole thing caved in, I didn't push her away because I stopped loving her. I pushed her away because I loved her too much to let her drown with me. I was 33, and broke, and ashamed. And every time she looked at me with hope, I felt like a liar. She deserved a man who could give her a life, a house, children, a future. And I couldn't even give her next month's rent. So I got cold. I got distant. I stopped talking. I let her believe I didn't care anymore, because I actually thought, that setting her free was the kindest thing a failing man could do. The day she put her wedding ring on the kitchen counter and walked out, I sat on the floor and cried until I couldn't breathe. And then I kept that ring in a drawer for 3 years, and took it out on the bad nights, just to remember she'd once chosen me. She thought she was asking a stranger for a favor. She had no idea she was asking the man who still loved her more than his own life. "Mira," I said quietly. "I'll pay you," she blurted. "I don't have much, but Stop. I'll find a way. Whatever you need. Mira, stop." She stopped. She looked at me, bracing herself. Sure, I was about to say no. Sure, I was about to tell her to get out, that she lost the right to ask me for anything the day she signed those papers. And for 1 second, one dark, tempting second, I thought about it. I thought about how much it would hurt to spend Sunday after Sunday pretending to love a woman I'd never stopped loving, then watching her walk away all over again when her father was gone. That kind of thing could break a man for good. But then I looked at her, really looked, at the woman standing in my doorway in the rain because she had nowhere else to turn, at the girl her father had trusted me to take care of, and I heard myself say the words that would change everything. "Only if you grant my request." Her whole body went tense. Something flickered across her face. Fear, confusion, maybe the worst kind of assumption. "Daniel," she said carefully, taking a small step back, What? What kind of request? And I realized what she was thinking. My stomach turned. No, I said quickly. God, no. Not that. Never that. What do you think I am? She flushed, ashamed. I'm sorry. I don't know what to think anymore. Sit down, I said. Please. Just sit. She sat on the edge of my old couch, hands in her lap, watching me the way you watch a stranger in the dark. And I paced, because my heart was pounding so hard I couldn't stand still, because I was about to gamble the last unbroken piece of myself on one impossible chance. If I do this, I said, if I stand in front of your father and I hold your hand and I let him believe we made it, I can't do it as a lie. Not the way you're asking. I tried living a lie once. It nearly killed me. I won't do it again. I don't understand. Here's my request. I stopped pacing. I made myself look right at her. I'll be your husband on Sundays for him. But in between, you give me a real chance. Real dinners. Real conversations. You let me take you out, just the two of us, and we talk the way we used to. No pretending. Not with each other. If we fake it for him, fine. But between you and me, it has to be real, or I can't survive it. She stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Why? She whispered. Why would you want that? After everything I did? After I left? And there it was. The moment. The truth I'd buried for 3 years, rising up in my throat. I could lie. I could keep my pride. I could say it was just so the acting would look convincing. Or I could finally, tell her the thing I should have told her the day she stood at that kitchen counter. I sat down across from her. My hands were shaking now too. Because you didn't leave me, Mira, I said. I left you. I just did it while standing in the same room. Her lips parted. I lost the business, and I got scared, and I decided you deserved better than a broken man. So I pushed. I went cold. I made you believe I stopped caring, because I actually thought, that was love. Setting you free, letting you go find a real life with someone who wasn't drowning. My voice broke. It was the biggest mistake of my life, and I've paid for it every single day for 3 years. Tears were streaming down her face now. She pressed a hand to her mouth. You want to know the real reason I still build furniture in this tiny room at midnight? I said. Because there's a jewelry box. A walnut box. I started carving it for our anniversary, the week everything fell apart. And I never finished it, because that was the week I decided to let you go. It's still in that drawer. Half done. 3 years. I could never finish it, and I could never throw it away. She was crying so hard she couldn't speak. So that's my request, I said, quieter now. Give me a real chance to fix the thing I broke. Not for your father. For us. And if, at the end of it, you still don't want me, I'll let you go for good. And I'll never ask again. And I'll be your husband right up until the last Sunday. And I'll make it beautiful for him. I promise you that. The rain kept falling. The kettle ticked as it cooled. And Mira sat there in my broken little apartment, staring at me with 3 years of unspoken things breaking loose behind her eyes. You kept the ring, she said suddenly. It wasn't a question. Didn't you? When I left it on the counter, you kept it. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. My silence was the answer. She closed her eyes. A sound came out of her. Half a sob, half a laugh. That impossible thing she did when her heart was too full to pick just one feeling. I called you, she whispered. That first year. So many times. I'd dial the whole number and then hang up before it rang. I told myself I hated you for going cold on me. I told myself I was better off. She opened her eyes, and they were shining. I lied to myself worse than I ever lied to my father. My heart was in my throat. Mira, I need to think, she said, standing up fast, wiping her face. I can't. This is a lot. I came here for one thing, and you turned my whole world upside down in 10 minutes, Daniel. You always could. Take all the time you need. She grabbed her thin coat. She was at the door, before I even stood up. And then she stopped, her hand on the doorknob, her back to me, and she went very still. There's something else, she said. Something I didn't tell you. The way she said it made the hair on my arms stand up. What? She turned around slowly. And the look on her face, it wasn't the grief from before. It was something deeper. Something she'd been carrying so long it had become part of her. My dad, she said. The reason he wants to see you so badly. The reason it can't wait. She swallowed. It's not just that he's dying, Daniel. Then what is it? Her eyes locked onto mine, and her voice dropped to almost nothing, nearly lost under the sound of the rain. He has something he needs to give you. Something he's been keeping for 3 years. And he made me promise. He made me swear that I'd bring you to him before it's too late. A tear slid down her cheek. He said, there's a debt I owe that boy, and I won't die owing it. I felt the floor drop out from under me. A debt? Mira, your father never owed me anything. What are you talking about? What debt? But she just shook her head, opening the door, letting the cold rush in. I don't know, she whispered. He won't tell me. He said it's yours to hear first. And then she was gone, out into the rain, leaving me standing in my little room, full of half-built things, with my heart pounding and my whole world turned upside down, holding a question I couldn't answer. What could a dying man possibly owe me? And why did I have the terrible, trembling feeling that whatever it was, it would explain everything about the day my life fell apart? The first Sunday, I stood outside her father's house for a full 5 minutes before I could make my hand knock. It was a small house with a blue door, the paint peeling at the corners, a garden out front that had gone a little wild. I knew this house. I'd fixed the gutters on it. I'd carried Mira over its threshold once as a joke and nearly dropped her, and we'd laughed so hard the neighbors looked out their windows. Standing there now, 3 years later, in a shirt I'd ironed twice because my hands were shaking, I felt like a ghost visiting his own old life. Mira opened the door before I knocked. She'd been watching for me. He's in the garden, she whispered. Daniel, thank you for coming. I mean it. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. She reached out, almost touched my arm, then pulled back, unsure. 3 years had made strangers of our hands. Just be gentle with him. He gets tired fast now. And don't let him see you looking sad. He'll know something's wrong. I nodded. And then I walked through that little house, past photos on the wall I couldn't bear to look at. Our wedding, right there, still hanging, like time had frozen in this place, and out the back door into the garden. And there he was, Sang-woo, the strong old man who'd taught me to fix an engine, who'd gripped my shoulder like a vice on my wedding day. He was sitting in a plastic chair with a blanket over his knees, and he was so thin now that the sight of him hit me like a punch. His cheeks had sunk. His hands, once so powerful, lay in his lap like fallen leaves. The heart was eating him alive from the inside, and you could see it. But then he turned his head, and he saw me, and his whole face lit up like the sun coming out. Daniel, he tried to stand. Couldn't. Reached out both arms instead. My boy, come here, let me look at you. I crossed that garden and I knelt down and I let that dying old man wrap his thin arms around me. And I swear to you, something broke open in my chest that I'd been holding shut for 3 years. He smelled like the same tobacco and menthol he always had. He gripped the back of my neck the way a father does. There he is, he murmured into my ear. There's my son. I had to squeeze my eyes shut so I wouldn't cry. Hi, Appa, I said. The word came out before I could stop it. Appa, father. I'd called him that for 7 years and never once thought I'd get to say it again. He pulled back and held my face in his cold hands and studied me, and his eyes were wet and shining. You got thin, he scolded. Is my daughter not feeding you? Mira, is this man eating? He eats fine, Appa, Mira said from the doorway, and I heard the ache under her fake cheerful voice. He looks thin. Sit, Daniel. Sit here next to me. Mira, bring the tea, the good tea, the one I hide from the nurse. And so I sat. I sat in that garden with the dying man who'd loved me like a son, and I held his hand, and I lied to him. I told him work was good. I told him the business was doing well, that I had more orders than I could handle. I told him Mira and I were happy, that we'd talked about traveling once things settled down. Every lie tasted like ash in my mouth. But every lie made his face glow brighter, and I understood, sitting there, exactly why Mira had done what she'd done for 3 years. When someone you love is dying, you'll build them a whole world out of beautiful lies if it lets them smile. But here's the thing I didn't expect. Sitting there, holding his hand, playing the part of Mira's husband, it didn't feel like acting. It felt like coming home. I looked over, and Mira was watching us from the doorway, a tea tray in her hands, and she had the strangest look on her face, like she was seeing something she'd lost and forgotten she'd lost. Our eyes met across that little garden, and for just a second, the pretending fell away, and it was just us, just Daniel and Mira, the way we used to be, caught in the same aching thought. This could have been our whole life. She looked away first. The afternoon went on. Sangwoo talked and talked, tiring himself out, telling old stories, laughing his wheezing laugh. And then, when Mira went inside to start dinner, he did something that stopped my heart. He gripped my hand, hard, harder than a dying man should be able to grip. And he leaned in close, and his voice dropped low and urgent, and he said, "Daniel, listen to me. While she's inside, listen." "I'm listening, Appa." His eyes searched my face. "There's something I have to tell you, something I've carried too long." He glanced toward the house, making sure Mira couldn't hear. "A debt. I owe you a debt, my boy, and I can't go into the ground carrying it." My mouth went dry. This was it. The thing Mira had warned me about in the rain. "Appa, you don't owe me anything. Quiet. Listen." His hand trembled around mine. 3 years ago, when your business fell, when you lost the workshop." He stopped, gathering his strength, and each word seemed to cost him. "It wasn't only bad luck, Daniel. It wasn't only the economy, the way everyone said." The garden went very quiet. Even the birds seemed to stop. "What are you saying?" I whispered. "The loan," he said. "The big loan. The one that broke you. The bank called it in early. All at once. No warning. You remember?" I remembered. God, I remembered. That was the phone call that ended my life. The bank pulling the whole loan at once, when I'd been making every payment, when I'd done everything right. It made no sense at the time. It nearly drove me mad trying to understand it. "I remember," I said. My voice didn't sound like my own. Sangwoo's eyes filled with tears, and his face twisted with a pain that had nothing to do with his heart. "It was me," he said. "I did it." The world tilted. "What?" "I knew the bank manager. Old friend." I made a call. He was crying now. This proud old man, tears running down his sunken cheeks. "I told him to pull your loan. To break you." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. I just stared at him. This man I'd loved. This man I'd called father. And I felt something cold and terrible spreading through my chest. "Why?" It came out as barely a sound. "Why would you do that to me? I loved her. I was taking care of her. Why would you?" "Because I was a fool," he sobbed. "Because I was a proud, stupid, frightened old man. And I thought I was protecting my daughter. Protecting her from what? From me? From what I saw coming." He gripped my hand so hard it hurt. "You were drowning, Daniel. The debts were piling up. I'd seen it before. I watched it happen to my own father. Watched a good man destroyed slowly by money troubles until there was nothing left of him but shame and anger. And I saw the same road opening up in front of you. And I panicked. I thought if I broke it all at once, fast, like ripping off a bandage, you would fall, yes, but you would fall free. You would rebuild. And my daughter wouldn't spend 10 years slowly sinking with you." He was shaking now, the whole story pouring out of him like poison from a wound. "I never dreamed. I swear to you on my life, I never dreamed it would end your marriage. I thought you'd lose the business, and lean on each other and come out stronger. That's what love does, I thought. I never imagined you'd pull away from her. That you'd go cold, that my meddling would take the 2 best people I know and drive them apart." His voice cracked completely. "I destroyed your marriage, Daniel. Me, not the economy, not bad luck. Me and my pride. And I have prayed every single day for 3 years for the chance to tell you the truth before I die." I sat there in that garden, and I don't have words for what happened inside me. Because do you understand what he was telling me? The thing that broke my life. The thing that made me feel like a failure. Like a broken man. Like someone who deserved to lose everything. It wasn't random. It wasn't the world proving I wasn't good enough. It was one frightened old man making one terrible choice out of love. And in that moment, I felt so many things at once that I thought my chest would tear apart. Anger, hot and real. Grief, betrayal. But underneath all of it, rising up slow and strange, something I didn't expect. Relief, because for 3 years, I'd believed the collapse was my fault, that I'd failed Mira, because I wasn't strong enough, wasn't smart enough, wasn't man enough. I'd carried that shame like a stone in my chest, and it was that shame that made me push her away. But it was never my fault. I hadn't failed. I'd been broken on purpose, by someone who thought he was saving us all. "Appa," I whispered, and I realized I was crying too. "Do you know what you did?" "Yes," he bowed his head. "I know exactly what I did, and I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness. I only ask that you know the truth. My daughter deserves a whole life, Daniel. She deserves the truth about why hers broke. But I could never tell her. It would make her hate me, and I couldn't lose her love in my last months. I'm a coward even now, you see." He looked up at me, pleading. "So I'm giving the truth to you, and to do with what you think is right. That is my debt to you. The truth. It's all I have left to give." From inside the house, I heard Mira call out, "Dinner's almost ready. Appa, are you warm enough?" And Sang-woo squeezed my hand, one last time, desperate, and hissed, "What will you do?" I looked toward the house. Through the window, I could see her, Mira, my Mira, moving around that little kitchen, setting plates, wiping her hands on a towel, glancing out at us with a soft, worried look because she didn't know. She didn't know that the reason our marriage ended was sitting right next to me. She'd spent 3 years thinking I'd stopped loving her. I'd spent 3 years thinking I'd failed her. And the truth had been sitting in this garden the whole time, dressed up as a loving father. Everything I thought I knew about the worst day of my life had just been turned upside down. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I don't know what I'm going to do." Because here was the impossible thing. If I told Mira the truth, that her father broke us on purpose, it might give us back everything. It would prove I never stopped loving her. It would explain the coldness, the pushing away, all of it. It could set us free, but it would also shatter her. It would make her hate the dying man she was about to lose. It would poison her last months with him with rage and betrayal. It would take the peace of his final days and set it on fire. How do you choose between the truth that could save your marriage and the mercy that could protect the woman you love from the worst pain of her life? "Daniel," the old man begged, "please, say something." But before I could answer, the back door opened, and Mira stepped out into the golden evening light, smiling that careful smile, and she said, "Come inside, you two. It's getting cold. Appa, you've kept him out here talking his ear off, haven't you?" And Sang-woo, God bless him, wiped his face fast, and laughed his wheezing laugh, and said, "Just telling him old stories, my girl. Old, foolish stories." I stood up. My legs barely held me. I helped the old man to his feet, and he leaned on me. This frail body that had once been so strong. And as we walked toward the house, he whispered one last thing, so quiet only I could hear it. "Whatever you decide, my son, I trust you. You were always the better man. Better than me. That's why I chose you for her in the first place." And then we were inside, in the warm little kitchen that smelled of rice and stew, and Mira was pulling out a chair for her father, and the 3 of us sat down to dinner like a family that had never broken. Except now, I was the only one at that table who knew the whole terrible, beautiful truth. I watched Mira laugh at something her father said. I watched the lamplight catch her face, and I thought about the real dinners she'd promised me, the ones that were supposed to start that week. Our second chance. Everything I'd wanted for 3 years, finally within reach. And I realized that the truth burning a hole in my chest could either be the key that unlocked our whole future together, or the match that burned it all to the ground. That night, I drove home in the dark, with my hands tight on the wheel and my heart at war with itself. And when I walked into my apartment, I went straight to the drawer. I opened it, I took out the half-finished walnut box and Mira's wedding ring inside it, and I sat on the floor and held them both. And I understood that I was standing at the most important crossroads of my life. Tell her and risk destroying her peace, her father's last days, everything, for a chance at us. Or keep the secret, carry it alone like her father had, and try to win her back honestly, without ever using the one truth that could change everything. I sat on that floor until the sun came up. And by morning, I'd made a decision, but I had no idea that Mira, My Mira, the woman who noticed everything, who'd known me better than anyone alive, had already sensed that something was wrong, that she'd seen her father's tear-stained face at dinner, that she'd caught the way I couldn't quite meet her eyes, and that she had decided, that very same night, that she was going to find out what her father and her ex-husband were hiding from her, no matter what it costs. I decided I would tell her myself. That was the decision I made on the floor, as the sun came up. Not because it was safe, it was the most dangerous thing I could do, but because I'd already lost her once by keeping the truth locked inside me. I went cold instead of honest 3 years ago, and it cost me everything. I wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. If we were going to have any chance, it had to be built on the truth. All of it. Even the parts that could burn. But I wanted to do it right. Gently. At the right moment. I wanted to talk to Song-woo first. To tell him I was going to tell her, so the old man could prepare his own heart. Life doesn't wait for the right moment. It was our first real dinner. The one she'd promised me. A small Italian place we used to go to when we were young and broke and in love. Splitting one plate of pasta because that's all we could afford. She'd chosen it. That meant something. And we both knew it. She looked beautiful. She'd worn a blue dress. She was nervous, playing with her napkin, and so was I. And for the first 20 minutes it was awkward and sweet, and full of careful smiles. Two people trying to find their way back across a canyon of 3 lost years. And slowly, it started to work. She laughed at an old joke. I remembered how she liked her coffee. We talked about small things and then bigger things. And the walls started coming down, brick by brick. And I saw the girl I married peeking out from behind the woman grief had made her. At one point she reached across the table and touched my hand. Just for a second. And my whole body remembered what it was to be loved by her. "Daniel," she said softly, her fingers still near mine. "Can I tell you something? Anything. These last 2 weeks. Watching you with my dad." Her eyes went bright. "I forgot. I actually let myself forget why I fell in love with you. And watching you hold his hand. Watching you call him Appa. It all came rushing back. And I've been lying in bed at night, thinking maybe we really could." And then she stopped. Because she saw my face. She always could read my face. That was the thing about Mira. She noticed everything. "What is it?" she said. The warmth drained out of her. "There it is again. That look. You've had it for 2 weeks, Daniel. Ever since that first Sunday in the garden." Her hand pulled back from mine. "My father cried at dinner that night. He thought I didn't see, but I saw. And you couldn't look at me. And every Sunday since, there's been something in this house that everyone can feel, and no one will say." Her voice started to shake. "I've spent 3 years being the only one who knows a secret. I know what it looks like on someone's face, and it's on yours. What are you and my father hiding from me?" The whole restaurant seemed to go quiet. The candle flickered between us, and I knew the moment had come, whether I was ready or not. "Mira," I said. "Not here." "Yes, here." Her eyes were filling. "Right here. Tell me, please. I can't do this again. I can't be loved by someone who's keeping something from me. That's how I lost you the first time. You went quiet, and you shut me out, and I never knew why. Don't you dare do it again. If you love me even a little, you tell me the truth right now. You went quiet and shut me out, and I never knew why." And there it was. The whole tragedy of us, spoken out loud. She thought the divorce was a failure of talking. But we had talked. We'd talked for months back then. Argued and cried and tried. The reason it broke us was never that we stayed silent. It was that I was hiding my shame, and her father was hiding his secret, and 2 people can talk forever and never reach each other when the most important truths are locked in a drawer. So I took a breath, and I gave her the truth. "Your father called in my loan," I said quietly. 3 years ago. The bank pulling everything at once. All of it, no warning. The thing that broke my business. That broke me. It wasn't bad luck, Mira. It was your father. He knew the bank manager. He made a call. He did it on purpose. The color left her face. He told me in the garden. That first Sunday. That's the debt he wanted to repay you. The truth. He did it because he was scared. He watched money troubles destroy his own father, and he saw the same thing coming for me, and he panicked. He thought if he broke it fast, I'd fall and then rebuild, and you wouldn't spend years slowly sinking with me. He thought he was saving you." My voice cracked. "He never dreamed it would end our marriage. He's spent 3 years praying for the chance to tell me before he dies." Mira sat frozen. A tear rolled down her cheek and dropped onto the blue dress. "No," she whispered. "Mira, no. No, that's not. My father wouldn't." But even as she said it, I watched it land. I watched 3 years of confusion suddenly click into place behind her eyes. The loan that made no sense. The collapse that came from nowhere. All of it, finally explained. "He did that? He did that to you? To us? He thought he was protecting you. He destroyed us." She stood up so fast her chair scraped. People turned to look. She didn't care. "I left you. I gave up on us. I signed those papers. I spent 3 years thinking you stopped loving me. And the whole time it was him? My own father?" She was crying openly now. "Take me to him. Right now. I have to. I have to hear him say it. Take me to him, Daniel." We didn't finish dinner. We drove through the dark to the little house with the blue door, and I could feel her shaking in the seat beside me. 3 years of grief and confusion boiling over into something too big to hold. I was terrified. This was exactly what I'd been afraid of, that the truth would set her on fire, that it would poison the old man's last days, that I'd traded his peace for our chance, and gotten neither. She was out of the car before I'd even stopped. I followed her into the house. Sang-woo was in his chair by the window, a blanket over his knees, and he looked up when his daughter burst in with tears streaming down her face, and I watched the old man's heart understand everything in a single second. He knew. He looked at me, then at her, and he knew. "Mira," he said softly, "is it true?" Her voice broke into 1,000 pieces. "The loan. Daniel's business. Was it you?" The old man didn't lie. Not this time. He'd carried it too long. "Yes," he said. "It was me." And Mira crumbled. And she sank to her knees on the floor in front of her father's chair, sobbing, and the sound of it filled the whole house. "Why? Appa, why? You took him from me. You took my whole life from me. I loved him, and you, I know." Tears poured down the old man's sunken face. "I know, my girl. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I thought I was saving you, and I only broke you. There is no forgiveness big enough for what I did. I don't ask for it. I only wanted you to know the truth before I go, so that maybe." He couldn't finish. His frail body shook with sobs. And then something happened that I will never forget as long as I live. Mira, kneeling on the floor, broken and furious and betrayed, reached up and took her dying father's hand. "You stupid old man," she wept. "You stupid, stupid, loving old man. Because here is the thing about real love. Real forgiveness isn't clean. It isn't simple. You can be furious at someone and still love them with your whole heart. You can want to scream at them and hold them at the very same time." And Mira, kneeling there, looked up at the father she was about to lose, and she made the bravest choice a person can make. She chose to spend his last months loving him instead of hating him. "I'm so angry at you," she sobbed. "I'm so angry I can't breathe. But you're my father, and you're dying, and I am not going to waste one single day we have left being angry. I'm not. I refuse." She pressed his hand to her wet cheek. "But you have to fix it. Do you hear me? You have to help me fix it." And the old man, weeping, looked from his daughter to me, and a light came into his dying eyes that I hadn't seen in 3 years. "Yes," he breathed. "Yes. Let me fix it. Let me fix it before I go. It's the only thing I want left in this world." He reached out his other hand to me. I crossed the room and took it. And there we were, the 3 of us, joined together on the floor of that little house. The man who broke us holding on to the 2 people he broke. All of us crying. All of us finally holding the whole truth in the light. "Daniel," Sang-woo said, gripping my hand with the last of his strength, "I took your life apart. Now I'm going to help put it back together. That workshop, the one you lost. I have savings, money I was keeping for. It doesn't matter what for. It's yours. You'll build again. You'll have your workshop back. That's the first thing. Appa, I can't take your, you can and you will. It's not a gift. It's a debt. I'm repaying what I took." He turned to his daughter. "And you, my stubborn, beautiful girl. Look at this man. Really look at him. He kept your ring for 3 years. Did you know that? He told me. 3 years. In a drawer. A man doesn't do that unless the woman is written on his heart in ink that doesn't wash out. His voice was fading, but his eyes burned bright. I broke you two apart with a lie I told out of fear. Don't let my fear win. Don't let it take one more day from you than it already has. That's all I ask. That's all this dying old fool asks. Mira looked at me then. Really looked. Across that little room. Across 3 lost years. Across every tear, and every mistake, and every night, we'd both spent aching for a person we thought we'd lost forever. Is it true? She whispered. You kept my ring? I reached into my jacket. Because I'd been carrying it. I'd started carrying it 2 weeks ago, on that first Sunday, and I hadn't fully known why until this exact moment. I pulled out the walnut box. Finished now. I'd stayed up 3 nights, sanding and oiling it. The box I couldn't complete for 3 years. Because it turned out, I just needed to believe it might one day be opened. I knelt down next to her on the floor of her father's house. And I opened it. And there, inside, was her wedding ring, catching the lamplight. I never stopped loving you, I said. Not for one single day. I lost the business, and I got so ashamed that I pushed you away, because I thought a broken man had no right to hold you. That was my mistake. Mine. Not just your father's. I went quiet when I should have reached for you. I let my shame speak instead of my heart, and I have spent 3 years wishing I could take it back. My hands were shaking around the little box. I don't want to be your husband for Sunday dinners. I don't want to pretend. I want the real thing. The boring Tuesdays. The late shifts. The whole messy rest of it. Mira, will you let me love you the way I should have loved you all along? Out loud. With nothing hidden. For the rest of our lives? She was crying and laughing at the same time. That impossible thing she did. The thing I'd fallen in love with a decade ago. Yes, she said. Yes, you idiot. Yes. And her father, watching from his chair, let out a sound that was half a sob and half a laugh, and he lifted his frail hands to the sky and whispered, "Thank you. Thank you. Now I can go in peace." I slid the ring onto her finger. It still fit. Of course it still fit. Some things are just made to fit, no matter how many years you spend apart. We were remarried in that little garden 6 weeks later. We did it fast, because we were racing the clock, and everyone knew it, and nobody said it. Mira wore a simple white dress. I built the arch we stood under with my own hands, out of the same walnut as the box. And Sang-woo, too weak now to stand for long, sat in his chair at the front in his best suit, a blanket over his knees, and he gave his daughter away, with tears streaming down his face, and the biggest smile I have ever seen on a human being. I told you, he wheezed to me as I passed. I told you the first day. You were always the better man. I just had to break the world apart to remember it. He lived 7 more weeks after the wedding. 7 weeks of Sunday dinners that were finally, completely real. 7 weeks of watching his daughter laugh in a marriage he'd nearly destroyed, and then, in his last act on earth, helped to save. He passed on a quiet Tuesday morning, in his sleep, holding Mira's hand, with a photograph of our second wedding on the table beside his bed. At the funeral, Mira reached for my hand, without even looking, the way you reach for something you know will always be there, and I held on. I rebuilt the workshop with the money he left me. There's a little brass plaque on the door now. It says Sang-woo and Son, because that's what he called me, at the end. His son. And a debt repaid is a debt repaid. But some gifts you carry forever. We have a daughter now. She's 2. She has her grandfather's stubborn chin and her mother's impossible laugh. When she was born, Mira held her in the hospital bed and looked up at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Do you think he knows?" "He knows," I said. "I think he arranged the whole thing from up there. The meddling old man." And we laughed, and we cried, the way you do when your heart is too full to pick just one. So that's my story. The story of how my ex-wife knocked on my door in the rain and asked me for a favor, and how I asked her for a request, and how a dying man's terrible secret gave us back the life his fear had stolen. I almost lost her twice, once to my own shame, and once to a lie I didn't even know was told. And both times, what saved us in the end was the same simple, terrifying thing. The truth, spoken out loud. even when it was the hardest thing in the world to say. Now let me ask you something, and I want you to really sit with it before you scroll away. If you found out that someone who loved you, a parent, a partner, a friend, had secretly done something that broke your life apart, believing with their whole heart that they were protecting you, could you forgive them? Could you choose, like Mira did, to spend your last days with them, loving instead of hating? Or would the betrayal be too big? And here's the harder question, the one that really matters. Is there someone in your life right now that you've gone quiet with? Someone you've been shutting out, going cold on, keeping a wall up against, telling yourself it's to protect them, or to protect yourself. Because if Daniel's story teaches us anything, it's this: the words we're too proud or too scared to say are the ones that cost us everything. 3 years. He lost 3 years to a silence he thought was love. Don't wait for a knock in the rain. Don't wait until someone is dying to finally say the true thing in your heart. Tell them now, while there's still time. Because love doesn't fail when we run out of feelings. It fails when we run out of the courage to speak.